Alright, so we are Friday. Talk about the network layer. We adjusted the lab. And so let's take a look at it. So, yeah, that adjusted lab is over here. I reviewed application, presentation, session layer. We reviewed those. And then we talked, a little bit more how we have data coming down from there, and then we split it into a segment and give it a port number. So actually in a computer you could be doing multiple things, like you could be downloading a file, you could be browsing, you could be streaming some video, etc., etc., and those would actually be on different port numbers. Transport. How are we going to transport the information? Okay, we're going to segment it up, and we're either going to send it TCP or UDP. There's actually more than that, but those are the two. The layer we're working on today is the network layer, which isn't very complex. It becomes a packet, and we add source and destination IP addresses to the data. It becomes a frame, and in the case of Ethernet, it's going to use that MAC address to identify it, okay, source destination MAC. And then the physical layer, don't confuse that's actually the fiber. It is the technology, some electrical engineer or somebody figured out how to make ones and zeros on wire, or how to represent them on fiber, or how to represent them in the air in radio frequencies or Wi-Fi. Okay, so it's tied to the medium, but it's not actually the medium. It's the same way. Our app up here, like a browser, isn't in the application layer, but there's a hook or a link somehow that browser connects in. No different than any application that actually uses network to do anything. All right, so we adjusted our network. Okay, so the inside has different IP addressing, and then the outside connected to a multi-layered switch. And that multi-layered switch had a router port set up for each of the students. Okay, for each of the students. That makes sense? Yeah, we'll show you the picture in a minute. And then that connected to a router, and that's this routing table right here. I did a show IP route. Here are the codes. Here is the default gateway, and that's pointing out to actually a multi-layered switch here in campus, and there are devices in between there. Okay, well, there's one switch in the classroom, and then the multi-layered switch, which eventually goes out to the internet. So that's defaulting out to there. So this address actually is in that multi-layered switch. And then directly connected, okay, so this here is directly connected out. So that is this port here going out. This Fast Ethernet 01 is the inside, and so that's going to this switch, this multi-layered switch that everybody's connected to. Okay? Here's the default route going out, and here's a static route pointing back in. And what it says, if anything 168 or 192, 168, and notice the mask of 16, it's going to send it to this next hop, which is in this switch, Fast Ethernet 01, which is this port right here. So it's going to send it down in. So anybody down here, like you have all these routers connected, and they have switches, and okay, so we're going to look at the diagram. Anybody connected down in here, they're all, addressing wise, they're all 192, 168, then some address, dot some address, right? So since that is the same for all of these networks down here, then that's why this will work right up here to send that information to everybody. How does it get split up? When it gets in here, this routing device sends it to the correct network. This routing device just sends it down. Done here. So here's the layout. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I will highlight a couple things. You know, here is some information on how we configured the default route and the static route. Actually, those were in this router up here. I'm not going to draw a line through there. And then we did a little bit of work on how to configure your interfaces with your IP address and making sure there was it wasn't shut down. Okay, so this is the whole picture. Well, there's one router not shown here because there's 10 routers for the students. Okay, I configured this one today, but we'll let somebody else have that on Monday. And okay, this is a little bit closer, so you can see we just numbered these switches. So those are the switches people have, and those are the same device numbers. And then in here we have the device number of the routers, and that varies a little bit because some are being used by the other class. But I used these ports, port 11 to be the addressing for this one, port 12, and then you use this addressing, and so that carried through for all of them. 254 up here, and everybody configured their side at 253. Okay, and here's how they configured information and configuration, plus there's a packet tracer where you configure your routing also, so that would help too. Here's where we did the static route, pointing at this interface, and this is the next hop. And then we, in that router up there, we had a static route to all the 192.168s with this mask here, and then I didn't type it in here. This would be the IP address of the next hop. More or less the other end. Okay, so that was in this router. Okay, in fact, let me, I can show that to you. So I typed this was in this router, and it gave this interface to go out of, and the address over in here as the next hop for that static route. Alright, we'll finish this up on Monday, and the midterm is next week, Friday. And we'll talk about that on Monday. And that's it. Oh, by the way, yeah, the students are going to put a workstation on these as soon as they get to class on Monday. And that's it.